Hello, I'm Joey and I'm here to talk about some Neo Retro news. That's right, contemporary information, news, about some kind of old or old-like video games. And well, I'm going to talk about the Nintendo NX, especially in relation to physical media and predictions on what the Nintendo NX is going to be all about, at least when it comes to physical media. And I'm also going to talk a lot about the retro video game system. And by the end, I might even discuss a way that you could save some of the videos you like watching on the internet to your hard drive. I don't know how visible I am in the light of the moon, which is just rising above the trees over there, or the environmental light from the recent sunset. Basically twilight lighting conditions. And some of the light reflecting off the ocean over there. Sometimes when recording a video, you don't get everything done in one take or at one time, and you don't have a nice quiet spot to yourself long enough to finish everything all at once. So sometimes you might have to find another location to do some recording. And I think this is pretty nice here. It's pretty nice here. Huh? Moonlight, ocean, but it is pretty dark. I suppose it does have a downside. Hi, I'm here to talk about, well, media. Physical media of a sort. There's an interesting Kickstarter out there. I personally have nothing to do with it other than I'm hoping I can scrape up enough money to, maybe donate $5. I'd actually like to donate enough money to get one of the items itself as soon as it's released. If there's a video game console they've started a Kickstarter, and anybody out there that might be remotely interested in it, I figured check it out. Somebody wants to make an old cartridge-based video game system. No, not old, it's going to be brand new. The Retro Video Game System. Yeah. And, well, some people might dismiss it. I think it's worth taking a look at. I'm just going to mention that briefly. This is going to be modeled with the same exterior as the Atari Jaguar. Not a very successful system, the Atari Jaguar, but it had a real cool exterior. And this is going to be modeled with the same exterior as the Atari Jaguar. It comes with a controller, which is inspired by one of the later Wii U controllers. Not the big one with the screen, but the one with the, analog stick. Basically the Wii U controller that's comparable to an Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3 controller. A smaller Wii U controller. Has a controller comparable to that, so it's reminiscent of the Super Nintendo in a way, that controller. At the same time reminiscent of a PlayStation controller. It looks like it has those 9-pin ports, so it might be compatible with Sega Genesis controllers. That'd be cool. So I just think it's worth checking out, and it's going to be capable of a wide variety of graphical styles, from back as far as Atari 2600 to apparently original PlayStation. It's basically designed to be a contemporary retro gaming experience, and I'm trying not to sound like an ad, because I know people will be skeptical about it, and I'm not really going to change your mind on that, but I thought it was interesting, and I figure if there's a Kickstarter out there, it's worth people knowing about. The Retro Video Game System. One of the controversies about it, and there actually are a lot of controversies about it to make it an issue. It's not actually on a Kickstarter. It's a different sort of crowdfunding thing, because apparently it doesn't qualify for Kickstarter because it doesn't have a proper prototype yet. But one of the questions about it is, one of the controversies is, would you pay 3 to 6 times more for a cartridge than a digital download, as, digital downloads are becoming common for independently developed video games? And actually, I'm not going to counter a lot of the other controversies on this thing, but yeah, I would. I am both a video game player and a collector, but I like physical copies. Now, I prefer optical discs and a little bit of internal storage. I do appreciate various forms of updates, but that said, be it a cartridge or a disc, I prefer them both over a mere download. To me, yeah, if a game is worth spending $10 on a download,
then it's probably worth $30 as a cartridge, maybe even $60 if it's a really good game. So yeah, a $10 download, would I pay $30 for it in cartridge form? If it's good, yes I would. And if you can hear me over the waves, yeah, maybe even $60 if it's a really good game. A really good game. So I think cartridges are worth it, but not preferable. I would actually prefer optical discs. And you know what? With optical disc technology, there are ways for games to be updated, and it's a lot more cost effective than cartridges. But, well, the retro video game system physically looks pretty cool. We just have no idea what's going to be going on with the internals of it. But that's a different question.
But what I really want to talk about is physical media and the NX, you know, like the NX-01, the Starship Enterprise, my favorite Starship Enterprise, the NX-01, or actually no, the Nintendo NX, the Nintendo NX. I actually like that name, but maybe, well, it kind of sounded cool to begin with, and then I like the NX class starships from Star Trek. My favorite form of Star Trek Enterprise. But here I am surrounded by a whole bunch of media. Over there, there's crates full of DVD movies, VHS cassettes, a whole bunch of video games, cartridge and CD and DVD games, novels, cases of comic books over to this side of the room, VCR, DVD players, satellite receivers, a Nintendo DS over there, Sega Genesis Nomad, high definition television. Over, looks like a closet, but on the other side over there, there's a room full of dust, but actually, it's where I play most of my video games most of the time. Old cathode ray televisions, stuff as old as the Atari 26, actually older than the Atari 2600. Coleco Telstar Alpha, yeah, that old over there. And right up to Wii U generation of video game technology, lots and lots of Sega stuff, yeah. New and old video games, Blu-ray, HD DVD, all kinds of stuff all over the place here. Then you have this. If you've noticed, computers, they're doing away with disk drives. Blu-ray drive, you could still fit a CD in it, you know, and usually it would work. DVD somewhere in the middle. What's really cool about it, having your own DVD burner, and some people will say, oh, I want to copy my own movies and pirate them. You know, no, nothing, I mean, that's somebody else's business. And actually, your own personal backup copies of media used to be something you could do. Remember those old computer games that come on floppy disk? You were supposed to copy it and save the original someplace safe in case there was data corruption on the disk. Which I thought that was a good idea, although discs were a lot more fragile back then. But physical media, this is becoming the common thing. Just something you can stick in a USB drive. They want everything to be downloadable so you don't have your own actual copy of it. I don't like that. I want a physical copy that's my own. And I like discs. I like to be able to back up my files on a read many times, write only once disc. To me, the optical disc was perfect as a format. You'd write to it once, those CDRs, not the CDRWs, and then the DVD replacement for it, and I wish they had did more with Blu-ray in that area. But to back up your files on a disc was perfect to me. And it was a great way to play a game, but whatever, you know. Now this is your physical media. Something like this, a little USB thumb drive. And I kind of like the ability to copy files. You can drag and drop a file, and it's like the file is the object you have now. I do kind of like that, but I kind of miss, I really miss discs, especially in laptop computers. You know, but this, to me, is great storage, but no replacement for discs. But yeah, discs. Good old discs. You know, and it doesn't take up much space. It takes up as much space as the case makes you take up. Right over here somewhere, this is Sonic Chronicles, an awesome game. The involvement of both Sega and BioWare worked really well together for this. BioWare was great developers. Then they were bought up by EA, so goodbye BioWare. But yeah, the Sonic the Hedgehog role-playing game by BioWare, it was full of awesome. For the Nintendo DS. Then we have Nintendo 3DS games on little chips, little cards, these little things. Yeah, these. And then we see Nintendo has filed a patent for a new console, and they're supposedly developing their new replacement for the Wii U, the new main console, which is going to be known as the Nintendo NX. Well, that's its code development name. They could call it just about anything when it comes out. They were going to call the Nintendo 64 the Nintendo Ultra 64. You know, I still sometimes think of it as the Ultra 64. I don't know. It's been enough decades now that I just think of it as the Nintendo 64. But for a long time, I just couldn't resist calling it the Ultra 64, because that's what I recognized it as before it was released. But anyway, these little things here. It used to be you couldn't fit as much data on something like this as you could, you know, a CD disc or a DVD disc or whatever, you know. Optical discs were the thing, but now we have amazing storage. We can, a little something like that you can stick into your camera, and, you know, you can, all kinds of data can be crammed into one little thing with just a little bit of flash memory in it. And storage is great. So the Nintendo NX, it doesn't have an optical drive. Assuming what they patent, assuming the design that was patented by Nintendo is a Nintendo NX, it looks like the Nintendo NX will not have an optical drive, but it will have a place for a card slot. A card. Basically, cartridge technology. Yeah, cartridge technology could be coming back. Those little cards with flash memory in them, they're holding their own. That technology is improving. So from Nintendo's perspective, they might view it as more cost effective to sell games on little chips, little cards, little whatever, like what you can stick into a Nintendo 3DS or a Nintendo DS. You know. That might be it, you know. We would go from cartridges to optical discs to cards. And you know what? There's actually things out there like the EverDrive that actually allow you to put a flash card into a cartridge and then play games off of that cartridge and then stick it in a Sega Genesis. Or there's equivalent for the Super Nintendo. You can make backups of your own games and have your own save games stored on the flash drive, which actually seems really cool. It's another way to liberate your old consoles from just the physical media that they were limited to. Just that cartridge. But no, you copy your game into one of these EverDrives, backup copies of your save games. Yeah, that'd be great. So these little flash cards are kind of liberating your old game consoles beyond just, you know, it's just a cartridge. No, I got a copy of that game down over here in this little flash card, and I stick it in the EverDrive, and then I stick the EverDrive in there. And look, I have the save games on my original cartridge. I have save games in there. I have a backup copy of the game, although cartridges do seem to last pretty much forever anyway. So yeah, physical media has changed, and it's kind of cool to see, you know, cartridges that will play flash cards hooked into old game systems like the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. But in a way, aren't cards just a thin cartridge? We've been down that road before, and it's actually kind of cool. It's things going full circle. So if the Nintendo NX, and I hope it's not just a download-only console, because if so, yeah, that's disappointing. That'd be really disappointing to me. But there's a good chance its new physical media is going to be on little cards. And as technology has improved, that could be a great thing. We've been down that road before. The most well-known video game system to use cards was probably the TurboGrafx 16. And I unfortunately don't have a TurboGrafx 16. I have, for 16-bit systems, I got my hands on a Sega Genesis, I got my hands on a Super Nintendo. I keep wanting to get a TurboGrafx 16. I decided I was more interested in a 3DO and stuff like that. I just never got around to getting the TurboGrafx 16. And there were a lot of games I saw in magazines over the years I liked, but, you know, I didn't know anybody that had one. I never got too into TurboGrafx 16. But they're known for their game format being cards. The CD add-on was a really popular device for the TurboGrafx CD, for the TurboGrafx 16. The TurboGrafx CD was a popular add-on for the TurboGrafx 16. But the main default media format for it was cards, which were basically thin little cartridges for all intents and purposes. You know, it wasn't an optical disc, it was a thing you just slid into the system and the pins made contact. But TurboGrafx 16 wasn't the first, and it wasn't the only. Around the same time that the Nintendo Famicom came out, the original Japanese variation of the Nintendo Entertainment System, Sega released a console at the exact same time, the SG-1000, and it was later revised as the SC-3000 computer, and also the SG-1000 console did get a revision in the form of a game console as the SG-1002, also known as the SG-1000 Mark II. It also wasn't long having a really big upgrade, going from the SG-1002 eventually got replaced by a Mark III, but it lost the SG-1000 part of the name. It just became known as the Sega Mark III, which is the Japanese equivalent to the Sega Master System. It was backwards compatible with the SG-1000 games, but it was beefed up, way more powerful. But it was backwards compatible with the SG-1000, at least the Japanese version was. If you have a European Sega Master System game, you can play it on a North American Sega Master System perfectly. So, this old system, the SG-1000, it had both cartridges and cards. And as it evolved into the Sega Master System, which was an entirely new system, cards. This is a Sega card. This is a card for the Sega Master System. So the Nintendo NX is Nintendo finally going to a format that Sega wants to use, that NEC used with the TurboGrafx 16. Cards are nothing new. This is I really like this for its simplicity. It's not an amazing game that's going to blow you away. There's a little plastic insert here that stayed in the cartridge as I pulled the card out. Or I should say in the case as I pulled the card out. But yeah, for smaller games that didn't need a bigger physical cartridge, this is it. This is... Huh? How thick is that? Yeah. It's a very simple game on here, but sometimes game developers, you know, they made simple games. And this is it. A Sega card. And I actually really like it. It's the only Sega card I currently have. And I kind of like the novelty of it. It's just called My Hero. It's a very simple game. And maybe one day I'll have a TurboGrafx card here to talk about. But this is a Sega card. And it looks like there's a good chance with the Nintendo NX, or whatever that console actually ends up being called, cards, those thin little cartridges, will be back. So things have gone full circle. And as much as I like discs, I'm kind of okay with that. It's a physical media. I hope they turn out to be reliable. If they were just another old floppy disk and you couldn't make backup copies, that would be bad. That would be bad. For the most part, video game cartridges are pretty reliable. And hopefully these cards will be too. That's assuming, it's only assumed the Nintendo NX will be using cards. They could go with a download-only system, in which case I might get a Nintendo NX. My internet connection isn't that reliable, and even if it was, I don't trust the concept, and even if I did trust the concept, I still don't entirely like the concept of download-only, especially, you know, there's going to be something limiting your ability to make backups of these downloads. So, I'm interested in what the Nintendo NX is going to become, and it looks like it's the return of the cartridge in the form of the card. So, we may have moved beyond optical discs, and we're going back to what was a pretty old format. And as for what I was talking about at first, the retro video game system, I think you should look it up. Just look it up, do a search, find the Kickstarter. I'm not telling you to spend money on the Kickstarter. I think that'd be cool because I actually want to check this thing out. This looks cool. I'm doing pretty bad for money right now, so I might not be able to get one right away. But I want to check that out. I want to check out the retro video game system. It looks pretty cool. I like the idea. People talk about, sometimes reference a system known as the Ouya, which a lot of people forgot about. Nobody knows about the Ouya, do you? Well, actually, yeah, some people know about the Ouya, but a lot of people don't. It came about, a Kickstarter began it. It began with a Kickstarter, I guess, and then it went away. I never had an Ouya. I was kind of curious about them, but not enough that I really learned a whole lot about them. It was a download-only system. This is going to be a cartridge system, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to have involvement with the guys at Collector Vision who are making video games right now. I don't know. I don't really know what's going to go on with it, but I think it's worth checking out.
Well, as I look up more information on it, it looks like the retro video game system is planned to get both a Sydney Hunter game from Collector Vision as well as Watermelon's Pier Solar. And Pier Solar is an awesome game. I've already played that one. Haven't played Sydney Hunter yet. Interested in it. I'm definitely interested in it. As for Pier Solar, played it, loved it. I'd be interested in getting multiple versions of the game, so I'd actually would like to try that on the retro video game system if it's released.
One of the greatest achievements humanity has ever achieved, what a redundant way of wording that, one of humanity's greatest achievements, I would say, is the television. The ability to share visual and audio information, media, stories, thoughts, ideas, entertainment. That was a pretty good thing, I think. But of course, in the early days it was limited, because it was basically a receiving and displaying device. You were limited to whatever was being broadcast. Then along came devices like the U-matic, something that's older than I am, and, somewhere around my age, I guess, I forget when it first came about, but the Betamax video cassette players and the VHS video cassette players, also known as VCRs, because video cassette recorders, because they could record, video. That was pretty good. You could, instead of just watching Transformers, you could actually have your own physical copy of a tape, a physical copy of the media you could play yourself. Instead of just watching Masters of the Universe, you could record a broadcast of it. I know I was rather glad that I wasn't limited to merely watching episodes of the real Ghostbusters and Star Trek The Next Generation. I recorded them every chance I got so I could watch them again. Well, one thing about technology now is it's become very convenient to just download things, and to me that's disappointing. Partly a security thing. If I purchase something, I want to actually have something. Now, it used to be the media on a video cassette was the advertisement, the value in buying that piece of plastic with the magnetic tape in it. Now you get nothing, other than the right to play something, which is important. Artists need to be paid for their media, but there should be some tangible quality to it. One great thing about the Windows operating systems was those files, you actually clicked on a window, but you could copy, drag, click. Within the computer, you could treat a file, be it a movie file, audio file, whatever it was, like a physical object, and you could copy it. In this day and age, one of our biggest forms of entertainment is YouTube. And, well, if YouTube goes down, or if some media company with enough leverage decides certain videos have to go away, they're gone. So, and plus if you're someplace where you don't have access to the internet, you can't access that anymore. So I kind of like the idea of being able to save some of my favorite YouTube videos. And I tell you how to save this video since I plan to upload it to YouTube, and who knows where else it might end up in the distant future, but I don't know what the link for it is going to be yet. But basically, there is a site out there that will, if you take the address of a YouTube video you're watching, change the extension before the word YouTube in it, including the dot just before YouTube, I believe. I'll double check that. Alright, at the start of the address for YouTube, just replace those, let's see, replace those 3 W's plus the period, or the www dot, replace that with the letters SS, and thus SS is part of the same word as YouTube in this case. Alright, then once that is done, hit enter, and let's see what page loads. And saveform.net comes up, and it's loading, and it gives us the option to download that. You can download it. There's different options for downloading. And a different website will load with the YouTube video and the chance to download and save it. Feel free to check it out and try it, but please, please continue to watch videos on YouTube. If you like a video on YouTube, it deserves lots of views. I think every time you want to watch a YouTube video, if you have access to YouTube, you should watch it. You know, let the people who uploaded it know that you're enjoying that video and watching it. But nonetheless, there is a site out there that allows you to download YouTube videos just by adding or replacing some letters in the web address with, just replace some of the early extension with SS. So it's like SS YouTube. So I think that's worth knowing about and checking out. But please keep watching videos on YouTube, like this one.
You can drag and drop a file, and it's like the file is the object you have now. I do kind of like that.
I just thought this was a nice looking location.
Just because of how universal that media was, I don't think you should have to buy an add-on and an external thing to plug into your laptop through the USB port to play DVD discs and Blu-ray discs in this day and age. I think every laptop should have a DVD player.